Thank you, Paula. Lovely to see so many of you today. My nomination goes to a lady called Ellen Nye Chart, 1839 to 1892. Without this diminutive and determined woman, Brighton's Theatre Royal, as we know it today, would not have existed. And it could be argued, nor would this festival as we know it. She was born Ellen Rollison in Islington, which was not the Islington we know today. It was a very poor working class area. And she started her stage career as a child actress in pantomimes. In 1865, she came down to Brighton and she joined the resident company of Ellen Nye Chart at the Theatre Royal here. Now, this company itself did a great deal to raise the standards of legitimate theatre in Brighton, and their partnership became personal when Nye Chart and Ellen married in 1867. Now, sadly, Henry died in 1876, and he left everything to his wife. But instead of conforming to the expectations of what a woman should do in those times and selling the whole lot, she took over management of the theatre and then made several groundbreaking decisions which would have an impact on British theatre from then on. Firstly, she extended the theatrical season to cover the whole calendar year, so it wasn't just a few months when the fashionable were here. She also introduced the annual Christmas pantomime to Britain. I mean, who would imagine that now, not having that? Then in 1883, she never stopped going. In 1883, she realised that she needed to attract audiences with some of the big names from the London stage. And so she invented the concept of the matinee performance. And in her day, they were actually called the flying matinee. You get this. An entire company, she'd pay for an entire company to come down from London by special train with their costumes, their props and their scenery. They'd set up in Brighton, do their show at 2 o'clock, and then on specially hired train carriages, catch the 4:45 back to London so they could be in time to do their evening shows at 8 o'clock. Now, could you imagine with today's train service doing anything like that? No. Exactly, but she did it then, and by 1891, she was able to tell an audience that there was scarcely a London novelty then running which would not come to Brighton during the present year. And this whole idea of matinee performances were then embraced by the theatrical establishment. By the end of the 19th century, every major stage name of the era, including Lily Langtry, Sarah Bernhardt and Sir Henry Irving, had appeared at the Theatre Royal Brighton, which is no small feat. But Ellen never forgot her humble roots. Every year, she invited the 1,200 inmates and staff of the Brighton workhouses to an annual pantomime free of charge. So for one day in their poor lives, they were treated like normal human beings and also were allowed into that elite that was known as the theatre. In 2007, the Theatre Royal's manager, Julian Boast, said, "If you thought the 60s was the decade for pioneering social inclusion, Ellen Nye Chart was doing it a century before by making people who had a horrible existence love the theatre." The Theatre Royal itself became so successful that Ellen set up a limited company and became one of its directors. After she was diagnosed with a heart condition, she scaled down her activities. She was on her way to London on February the 3rd, 1892, when she was taken ill on a train. She was taken to the Grosvenor Hotel, where she died 20 days later. Her body was brought back home to New Road, and actors and many other people paid their respects. Her funeral brought Brighton streets to a standstill, and her funeral is tended by hundreds more. She's buried in Woodvale Cemetery, where her inscribed name is now almost illegible, which is a very poor memorial to such an illustrious hero. More fitting are the tributes paid to her by the likes of the North Lane Community Association, who have said, "She put Brighton on the map. She made the Theatre Royal Brighton one of the best-known provincial theatres in England and gave it a national as well as a local status. Hers was, without doubt, the most important name in the first 100 years of our Theatre Royal's history." So thanks to Ellen Nye Chart, it's hard to think of a major national or international actor who's not trod the boards at our illustrious theatre. It's also no coincidence that so many important theatrical figures, from Laurence Olivier to Flora Robson, chose to make their homes here, and that the inaugural Brighton Festival, held in 1967, attracted the highest possible calibre of theatre productions, including the National's production of The Dance of Death, which starred Olivier and Geraldine McEwen. This high standard of theatre in the Brighton Festival continues to this day, and none of it would have been possible without Ellen Nye Chart. So vote for her. Thank you.